Hey everyone, it's Jo. I'm the Kosher Ninja, and we've been talking about my adventure last year hiking on the Shvil Israel, or Israel National Trail. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you've stopped by. While you're here, go check out my videos from the Shvil, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell to get the notifications when I post my videos. But right now, in case you haven't noticed, the world is kind of zooey right now. Yeah. So last week I wasn't able to post a video because I'm just trying to get settled in and juggle my priorities in this new reality of ours. And I do still have a day job that I'm very fortunate for and grateful for. So as I learn to juggle this new reality, I promise we will get back to the Shvil soon. But today, we're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about freedom. You may recall that the Kosher Ninja's alter ego is a mild-mannered legal professional who is really trying hard to figure out how she can help to make the world a safer place for human rights and a scary place for human rights abusers. So, as a result, I can't just sit back and say nothing. I'm kind of two minds whether or not I should do this video at all because there's a lot of people talking about the current situation and I'm sure people are tired of it. But I've just had a lot on my mind that I really want to express. So it's kind of half-baked, but humor me, okay? And we will get back to the Shvil, I promise. And you're saying, well, what does this actually have to do with anything, about anything? Like the Shvil, maybe. Well, actually it does, because, you know, when you think about the Shvil, or you think about the AT, or the PCT, or the CDT, or the Camino, or the Teararoa, what's the first thing that you think about? What's the thing that attracts us to these trails in the first place? It's that sense of freedom, the feeling that for whatever amount of time, for 5 days or 2 months or 6 months, you're free to organize your life and your days the way that you want to organize them. The only thing controlling your destiny for that period of time is a sign on the top of Mount Katahdin or a view of the Gulf of Eilat, helped along a little bit maybe by a date with Old Man Winter. But is that what freedom really is? The ability to go wherever you want, whenever you want, with no rules, no concern for anybody else, and no responsibility? As someone who cares deeply about freedom and human rights, I've been particularly concerned over the last couple of weeks about the news reports and the pictures of people cavorting on beaches and in bars and with their friends in parks because it's their right and it's freedom, or stockpiling basic necessities that they can then sell to desperate shoppers for outrageous prices because they can. Is that what freedom is? I think as backpackers and thru-hikers, I think that we should be the first people to say that that's not what true freedom is. Freedom is about responsibility, about respect and concern for our fellow human beings. That's what true freedom is. When we go out on the Shvil or any other trail, it's not like we're out on some deserted island, like some kind of modern day Robinson Crusoe. Which reminds me, my very first favorite book was The Lord of the Rings. I must have been 8 or 9 years old or something when I took it out of my school library. And for years and years and years afterwards, I was looking all over for that book because I wanted to read the rest of it, part 2, and find out what the rest of the story was. years and years later, by the time I had actually forgotten what it was about and why I was looking for it, I finally found it. I started reading, but things just weren't quite right. It turns out I was reading The Lord of the Flies. Yeah, you get my point. So back to the Shvil. Yes, there is freedom on the Shvil, but what does that mean? Well, first of all, there's a Shvil, or a trail. You can't just walk wherever you want. There's other people along the Shvil. There's hikers and trail angels and suppliers that you need to treat with respect. And there's a whole world alongside and beyond the Shvil that, oh, and by the way, the Shvil that often goes through private property. And that world is affected by hikers, for better or for worse. There are rules and etiquette to follow, and if you don't follow those rules, there's consequences. And I imagine in the worst case, you could probably get banned from a trail. And I'm not even talking about criminal activity here. That's a whole nother ballgame. Every teenager alive knows this principle. As they grow older and show that they can bear the responsibility that comes with freedom, they're given more freedom. And if they can't bear that responsibility, then they lose those precious freedoms that they've acquired. So why is it that we forget this principle the day that we turn 18? You're going to tell me, well, it's not us, it's the COVIDiots who are out there frolicking and cavorting and putting us all in danger. And that's true, but I think it's more than that. I think it's society. If we as a society truly believed that freedom is not licentiousness, but responsibility well managed, then those COVIDiots wouldn't be out there. We wouldn't have to invoke emergency measures or send the police out to enforce responsible behavior. We wouldn't be watching the train wreck that's about to crush our precious freedoms as we are right now. And I can promise you we won't be getting them back anytime soon. And what are the consequences? Well, you say people are dying because of others' selfish behavior. Yes, people are dying, as strange as it seems from my social distancing cocoon. But don't kid yourself that people aren't going to die because of the measures that we have to invoke. People are losing their livelihoods. People are getting stuck in abusive situations. And that's just the start. And, as always, it's the vulnerable who are going to suffer. And all that because we as a society no longer understand that freedom is inseparable from responsibility, respect, and consideration for our fellow citizens. It's like somehow while we as a society have decided that it's the government's job to take care of us, we've put all our responsibility on the government and think that we can get away with just the license. Well, the truth is, if we want to give government our responsibility, before long, by necessity, we're going to have to give them our freedom as well. Because freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. They're like two sides of the same coin. So if you give away your responsibility, you can't help but give away your freedom. The part that baffles me is some of the people out there who are calling on government to take action urgently. Some of the loudest voices are people that, under normal circumstances, I hear talking about how government needs to get out of our lives. I've been trying to figure this out, and I finally decided that maybe it's because these people actually understand that freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. So, in normal times, they've been trying to repatriate responsibility, but under the current emergency circumstances, they realize that it may just be too late. That horse has left the barn. If it's too late to give responsibility back to where it belongs, the only option left is to give away freedom. So think about this over the next few weeks. I certainly will. It's kind of counterintuitive, but are we just going to sit back and watch as we lose our precious freedoms, some of them forever? Or are we going to stand up and defend our freedoms by standing up on behalf of responsibility, doing the right thing so the government doesn't have to force us to? Or is it already too late? Hopefully you saw my last video, the one about Masada. Well, those Jewish rebels on that mountaintop, facing down the Roman soldiers, had to wrestle with this question. They had to wrestle with what freedom meant to them and what freedom is and how much it meant to them. In the end, they took responsibility and made the ultimate sacrifice in order to remain free. In doing so, they left us with a potent mixture of inspiration and perplexing ethical questions to grapple with. Was it right? Did they do the right thing? Was that really freedom? Whatever your answer, clearly freedom exacts a heavy price. But the rebels on Masada had a clear, visible, and somewhat predictable enemy. So we can perhaps convince ourselves that these questions really aren't that difficult. And probably whichever way you lean on this question, it probably seems pretty black and white. But today, we face an invisible, silent enemy that has the whole world in its sights. And it may not seem so obvious, but the price for our freedom is just as high today as it was that night on Masada. If we as a society can't handle the responsibility that comes with freedom, then perhaps we don't deserve the freedom. And that's a truly frightening thought for somebody who cares about human rights and freedom. Much more frightening than any coronavirus. After all, with freedom and responsibility working hand in hand, any coronavirus can be beaten. But the truly frightening enemy is the one that wants to take away our freedoms by convincing us that they have nothing to do with responsibility. So if my point's a little obscure, no, let's not go hang out on the beach or in the pub with our buddies. Let's get on Skype or Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever you're on and talk to our friends and neighbors and family and whoever we know that maybe are doing these things. And I know that most people are getting the message, but let's make sure that everybody knows that when they're doing these things, they're not risking coronavirus. They're risking the very freedoms that they think they're exercising. So there you have it, my thoughts over the last couple of weeks. And I promise we will get back to the Shvil. But for now, if you're as concerned as I am about the prospect of losing our cherished freedoms, give me a thumbs up and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications and share this video with your friends. If you have any comments that you'd like to share about something that you've experienced related to responsibility and freedom on the Shvil or the trail anywhere or just in your everyday life, share those in the comments down below. And I think everybody's probably pretty fed up about hearing about coronavirus by now, but if you have a particularly positive story to share about COVID and about responsibility and freedom, then go ahead and share that too. We do want to hear it. So for now, I just want to say, can't wait to see you again next time. Thanks for watching and shalom, eh?